Greetings from Uganda, Naula Major in Bole for isinijurutv. Our news today is about terrorism, labor export and the border nightlife. Thank you, tune in for more. The Ugandan government and their counterparts in Saudi Arabia are set to establish a joint technical committee to monitor the well-being of Ugandan immigrant workers in Saudi Arabia, following numerous complaints, especially from domestic workers. Minister of Gender, Labour and Social Development, Bet Among, told journalists that the committee will support the two governments in monitoring, implementation and compliance with the contracts to ensure safe and decent labour externalization.
These two governments, through the Joint Technical Committee, we agreed that they will now have a role in ensuring that they monitor compliance of the agreements and the contracts and make sure that we have a safe and decent labor externalization program. We had agreements on what we must do to solve some of these key issues, and this include strict enforcement of our signed agreement and the contracts that the workers sign with the employers. And we agreed that we must now put a robust mechanism to ensure that as a ministry, as government of Uganda and government of Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, we must now come in force to ensure that all the agreements we sign and the contracts that these workers sign with the recruitment company is enforced and the contractual obligation not breached. We also agreed that the technical committee will thoroughly review the previous agreement that we signed in 2017, consolidate with existing agreements, look at the reforms, because while we are having reforms here, we also found that in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, government is making fundamental reforms to support enforcement of the obligation of the recruitment companies. We have also agreed that this joint technical committee should design a elaborate joint reporting, the complaint handling mechanism, and case management and procedure of how cases should be resolved. So all the complaints you are hearing, we have agreed, let them now sit down and tell us, the political leaders, that this is how we should monitor, handle complaints, look at people who are distressed and be able to monitor.
And what the ministry does when you apply for that clearance is that your work visa is verified. And a number have been told that this visa that you have is a fake. So if you get your job as an individual, you can go. The other channel is through a recruitment company, where a licensed recruitment company gets a job order from a foreign recruitment agency. The ministry, together with the relevant embassy of Uganda, verifies the job order, and then the company is authorized to recruit. So the company advertises, it recruits, and then processes the visas for the candidates that has recruited. Again, our Department of Employment Services verifies those job orders and also reviews the employment contracts before anyone is cleared. And that contract is a four-party contract. It is signed by the Ugandan employee, the Ugandan recruitment company, the foreign recruitment company, and the foreign employer, where that is applicable. And one of the provisions of that four-party contract is that the Ugandan company and the foreign recruitment company will be jointly and severally liable for anything that happens. So if there is any problem, the first person we hold accountable is the Ugandan recruitment company.
When you've gone, you go through official channel, you reach there, you leave the company that has employed you, you go to another company, before 2 years has lapsed, then the protection reduces. So we have so many of that categories.
So if someone travels abroad, they are not paid or they get challenges, they can't get an air ticket back. If the company in Uganda cannot raise that ticket, we charge the bank guarantee. The other pathway is government to government, or G to G, where Uganda and country X agree that people will be placed through the Ministry of Labor to another country. And that's what the minister told you. There are discussions that are going on around that.
The Saudi government has a monitoring system which is web-based. It's called Musaned. Ours here is called EMIS. We have also now agreed that our technical team should harmonize and interlink and integrate the functionality of this system. Because the one for Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has the names of all Ugandans who go to Saudi Arabia. The one of Uganda, we are now supposed to also upgrade it to make sure that we link it to that one of Kingdom of Saudi Arabia so that we are able to read on the same page. If they are reading 140,000 Ugandans, we will also be reading the 140,000. And we make sure that the monitoring of every migrant worker is done at all times. And if a worker changes company from one company to another or from one home to another, which is a major cause of problem, this online system must be able to locate the Ugandans, to know that these Ugandans have now left this company and has transferred to another company. And we have a mechanism where our embassy will be able to follow up to find out whether they have done it out of consent or they have done it because they have been transferred illegally. So all this mechanism of online monitoring will be, we agreed that the technical team will handle and report to us.
On repatriation of the deceased, the bilateral agreement that we have with Saudi Arabia and all the others with the UAE, Jordan, and the one that we intend to sign with Qatar, all anticipate that death may occur. And where death occurs, it is the responsibility of the recruitment company in Uganda and in Saudi Arabia to meet the costs for repatriating of the body. But usually it's the foreign recruitment company that does that. The duty of the government of Uganda and the government of the recipient country is to make sure that all the administrative requirements are fulfilled. For example, the Minister of Labor here will work with the Minister of Health to make sure that the health clearance is issued. The Minister of Foreign Affairs issues clearance. Then the Ministry of Transport, which is responsible for CAA, also issues the necessary clearances.
The existing regulations, pre-departure orientation and training of migrant workers, we agreed it should be reviewed because there are certain complaints we found there where somebody says, but you see, when the girl came to my house, she wrote in her form that she's a devoted Muslim. But I've been monitoring her. She doesn't know even how to do anything of Muslim. She doesn't know how to recite Muslim. She doesn't pray. So now we said we must entrench and the pre-departure orientation and training of migrant workers, we must now increase so that even if you're going there, you must know at least how to recite some of those, because those people are very, very serious when it comes to issues of their religion. We will also integrate certain contractual obligations and rights, because some of them says they reach there, they sign another contract. So all those we want, when you are being trained here, you are told what are your rights. You are given a contract from here and all that, so that when you reach there, you know your rights. For effective monitoring, we have also agreed that we shall have periodic quarterly status report on each deployed workers, and it will be submitted online and copied to our embassy in Saudi Arabia, to the recruitment agency, and our Ugandan recruitment companies. So this integrated online system, we want to make it more robust. We have also agreed that all recruitment companies that employ our Ugandans in Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the ones who based in Saudi Arabia, they must employ a Ugandan coordinator or translator to handle complaints of distressed Ugandan workers. And our Ministry of Gender will then assign appropriate curriculum for the supervisors. The Ugandans that will be placed there will have a curriculum that will train them and will regularly engage them. Our embassy will have quarterly meetings with them so that they agree on how to handle. And also the functionality, they will be trained on the new regulations and functionality of our IMIs, because they will be a major player in the monitoring of our workers.
Owing to the increasing number of insecurity in the region, the security chiefs from the Intergovernmental Authority of Development, IGAD, and member states converged in Kampala on Tuesday to chart possible ways of collaboration to combat the threats posed by the improvised explosive devices. The IGAD Director of Security Sector Program, Abebe Mulone, Uganda Police Counter-Terrorism Director, and other representatives from member states, including the Sudan Foreign Affairs Minister and Project Chief, attended the third committee meeting on development of regional strategy to prevent, counter, and respond to the threat of improvised explosive devices in the region.
This meeting is a very important meeting for peace and stability of IGAD region. We are here on the third technical committee meeting on improvised explosive devices threat assessment. This subject brings to heart a very live threat to the existence of our countries, of our nations, and of our citizens. Terrorism is a transnational crime, and IEDs are usually tools that terrorists use to destabilize, to create havoc, and to destroy. And therefore, IGAD Secretariat applauds its team at ISSP and further applauds the IGAD member states for actually focusing on the matter of IEDs.
The IGAD region is facing more than one tough challenge on peace and security front. The socio-political setting reminds us that we must give the highest priority for such activity and program.
Given what the region is currently experiencing, terrorism threats seemingly appearing to be rising with the increasing use of improvised explosive devices, modifications of IED construction by the perpetrators, and IEDs becoming smaller, lighter, and yet relatively more powerful compared to the device composition of the past. For the IGAD region, therefore, there is no better time than now to chart a way forward on how to deal with the threats of IEDs through cooperation in identification and assessment of threats, sharing of information, and developing a common coordinated approach to the dangers that come along with the production, transportation, deployment, and the use of explosives.
Each member state has its own internal mechanism to deal with these issues. Of course, these are criminal issues. However, the kind of capability that the governments, various governments have is important for us to consider. And what do we also as a capability require as a regional strategy, not only inside but within the countries. So the issue of national institutions capability, regional institutions capability is very important. And in this regard, I think the directorate that's headed by Commander Abebe, the ISSP, the IGAD Security Sector Program, is a very important hub, in my view, for us to be able to use as a reference point in our capability building in our governments.
Uganda in particular has suffered the use of IEDs, including the recent bombings in Kampala, which led to the loss of lives, including civilians and security personnel. But also, the 8th of December saw a suicide bomber blow himself in the Nyakach area of Kisumu County, killing an elderly couple and injuring a few others. And we all know what happens in Somalia almost on a daily basis.
There are 5 key issues that the Secretariat recommends to you today that member states should take for consideration. The first one is for IGAD to conclude the IGAD treaty. The treaty is still in draft form, and therefore the Secretariat requests guests of honor that the member states of IGAD consider to put effort to conclude this treaty, because among the provisions of the treaty will be matters of peace and security, including countering violent extremism and terrorism in our region.
We all do know that CIED is not a new phenomenon in our region. I remember as far back as the early 20s, 2012, 13, 14, when this issue started gaining prominence at the time, we tried to do some kind of discussions around it within the member states under the peace and security strategy of IGAD at the time to address this issue. So it has been coming along since then, but it looks like the issue now is much more persistent in the last couple of years, and particularly the last couple of months now, than ever. And therefore, there is no time, in my view, when this issue is as important for action as it is today. So those of us who are from outside the mainstream government institutions who have been asked to work on this feel privileged that we are contributing to a subject that is as much current today than it has ever been.
What is even more important in a region of over 270 million people is citizen accountability. The citizens of IGAD should be at the forefront of ensuring peace and security in our region. What does citizen accountability mean? It means that citizens are aware of their environments. They are aware of the persons who are in their neighborhoods, who are in their houses, and they are aware of what exactly they are doing. Citizen accountability means that the citizens of IGAD can work with law enforcement agencies, can work with the police, with the military, with intelligence agencies, so that information is given timely and such matters of terrorist acts can be averted in time.
I think cooperation is a very easily usable word. If I put the question here, do you want us to cooperate? You will all say yes. The problem, the challenge is tomorrow morning when I take you to hold your word, for you have made a commitment to cooperate. Then you start probably talking about bits and pieces of regulations that probably limits your ability to cooperate. I think cooperation within the member countries' institutions and within the regional institutions is so important. And therefore the relevance and what everybody does and removal of the compartmentalization among ourselves is very important.
It's very important to develop the institutions of IGAD member states who have a direct responsibility towards peace, towards security of our citizens.
We don't have to wait until other agencies who probably cooperate and who probably share information better tell us that they have sent an alert. Commander Abebe talked about the IED incident in Kenya. I know the village very well. It's in Mandera County. It is a place called Hagarsu. And I know, it's called Hariri Hosle, and I know the place very, very well. There was a culvert on the road, and I was reading the police brief from Kenya last night, and they were saying that 2 vehicles came to a place where there was a culvert on the road, and those vehicles stopped and diverted. They detoured. And then the third one came and hit the IED. Now this tells you clearly that most probably those 2 vehicles who stopped and then detoured knew something. Either they looked at the ground and thought probably there was some interference on the ground surface that made them fear in good faith, or they may have known something. So what does it tell you? This tells you that the issue of information and community involvement, community mobilization, understanding of the seriousness of this is so important. 7 people were killed and 13 were injured. So you can imagine just the issue of information. And this is immediately after an alert was issued the previous day by EU and the US. So we are here, we have our own internal information systems in the region, in the countries, but we have all these alerts flying all over the place. So what does it mean? Does it mean that we do not have a mechanism to generate our own information and also counter-check our information with the information of cooperating countries like the EU and the US? Or what does it really mean? So the whole aspect of information is so important.
In other news, the boda cyclists are very, very happy and excited after the President of Uganda, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, has revised the curfew hours, and now they are free to ride at any time of the hour.
Following yesterday's pronouncements by His Excellency the President, we can now say that the night economy is now complete with the lifting of the curfew restrictions on borders, and where all members of the public can now move without any restrictions. The borders are one of the most flexible means of transport over short and medium distances around cities, urban centers, even rural areas. This now means a significant night workforce, travelers, revelers, and transporters who rely on borders can now return to their previous timings of movement. Although some saw the curfew restrictions as an inconvenience, as an extreme measure, and imposition on their freedoms, it was one of those interventions among other lockdown measures that were very effective in curbing the spread of COVID-19. We must therefore, as Ugandans, appreciate the usefulness of the curfew restrictions in preventing the spread of COVID-19 in Uganda. As the joint security agencies, we want to thank each and everyone who complied with the curfew provisions and our enforcement mechanisms. Hopefully, with time, the public will reflect and recognize the contribution of the security agencies and other frontline workforces in fighting COVID-19. We urge still the public to continue being conscious and vigilant as we continue to live with the virus, especially when they are in public places, because the risk of COVID-19 still exists. Therefore, the end of the curfew now means that law enforcement agencies can now fully return to policing the community more broadly. All our manpower and logistical resources will now be directed to fighting traditional crimes and other emerging crimes in the country. Despite the fact that borders play a big role in transporting passengers, it is an industry that is not well regulated, and we've gotten instances where some criminal elements have infiltrated this sector. For instance, in the past, we've registered complaints of child kidnaps, incidents of rape by selected border riders, broad-day gang robberies. You saw the attacks on Indians and other business persons. Ride-along murders and assassinations have occurred in the past. Smash and grab offenses of motor vehicles and grab offenses of bags from women, theft of motorcycles, and other conspiracies. We therefore urge the public to be careful when they're moving at night due to the high risks which are associated with traveling at night. When you are traveling on a border, please ensure the rider follows the route that you are conversant with. Watch out for unnecessary stopovers. Some of them pretend that fuel is finished from the motorcycle or border, or sometimes it stops and pretends to make a call. So you have to be very, very vigilant. And during that process, you find people are attacked. We have a new type of crime where you find you're being ridden by a rider, a border rider, and he has accomplices who are tracking you. They give you a chase, they give the front border a chase, and then they attack the passenger and rob them clean. We ask the public to be careful with borders that still have tilted number plates. Please don't board those ones.
Thank you so much, our viewers. Thank you for tuning in to Isinijuru TV. Thank you for liking our program. Thank you for following. Thank you a bunch. Naula Majorin Bole for Isinijuru TV.